How to resolve workplace conflict. That's the topic. That's the question I'm addressing today on Q&A Friday. I'm Larry McGuire, work and business psychologist, and every Friday you'll find me here discussing a question that maybe a reader has posed or a client, or in this case, a journalist who contacted me to contribute to an article she was writing today for the Irish Examiner on the topic of conflict resolution in the workplace. And I offered an analogy of the burning house, and I'll get to that in a second. So imagine, first of all, that you're in a situation, maybe you don't have to imagine it, maybe it's true for you, and you're in conflict with a work colleague, or maybe it's a boss, or maybe it's a client, or someone else in the workplace. And you're looking for someone to talk to about it. You're looking to vent. And so you might, in any given situation, pretend that you're not affected by it and you'll attempt to get on with your work when really you're just boiling up inside with frustration, and or maybe it's anxiety for you. Negative emotion in any case is associated with this relationship. So how do you resolve it? Well, oftentimes we'll seek out people who will support us in order to vent, and we love to jump up and down about the problem, tell them all about the problem. We meet them again tomorrow, and we talk about it again. We go home to our spouse and we talk about it again, and we get on social media and we talk about it again, and all the while we're building up and building up and building up all this tension around the problem. And really it doesn't serve us. We might get some kind of obscene gratification from banging on about this problem and jumping up and down about it, but really it doesn't solve anything. And that's the situation we get ourselves into. And eventually it may turn into this fireball of a problem that maybe it shouldn't have been in the first place. The challenge for you and I in this situation, when we're faced with a difficult relationship at work, is to find a solution early on. So, to refer to the house on fire analogy, if there was a fire in your house, in your kitchen, maybe it's a deep fat fire, or maybe it's a fire in the corner of the room. What are you going to do about it? Well, you're likely to go reach for the fire extinguisher or grab a bucket of water or something like that and put it out. You're not going to run for the petrol can and pour petrol on the fire. And this analogy, when you apply it to this scenario in the workplace, can open up a few possibilities, because jumping up and down and banging on about the problem is like pouring petrol on the flames. And it will get worse. Don't worry about it. It will get worse and worse until such time as you're faced with a house completely engulfed in flames, and the only thing you can do is to leave. Sometimes we find ourselves in those situations, and that's the right move, to find a new job. But oftentimes a solution can be found very early on. And so the ideal situation, or the ideal route to find that solution, is to talk to somebody who can help. Maybe it's a professional, maybe it's a colleague, but not one that helps reinforce the problem. And perhaps they empathize with you, but what you don't want from them is to inflate the issue for you. And if you're in the position where somebody comes to you, you got to ask yourself, well, am I supporting this person in the right way? And so we must learn to diffuse the problem early on, put out the fire early on, reach for the solution. Oftentimes that's not possible. Maybe we're dealing with a type A personality, someone who's socially inept, low on the emotional intelligence scale, and doesn't know how to relate to other people. They're bossy, they're demanding, they're demeaning in their approach. All they see is output, and you are a means to achieve that output. Well, you've got to ask yourself, should I leave this situation altogether? And oftentimes that's the right answer. Another analogy that we can use to examine this situation is the train, or fueling a train. You're up front on a steam engine, and you're piling coal into that furnace. You're fueling that fire, and the train keeps speeding on down the track, a track that you don't want to be on. And oftentimes the best solution to that is just to stop shoveling coal. In the real world, how would that look? Well, maybe it's 2 weeks off work. You get a sick note from your GP or your local doctor, or whatever happens to be. You'll need time out just to let things settle down. And only in that place, then, that more calm, reflective space, can you find a solution, or maybe you work with someone to help you find a solution. I often have these conversations with clients, and what it really boils down to is monitoring how we think about a situation. When we're completely obsessed myopically obsessed with a problem, it doesn't get smaller. It just gets bigger because we keep fueling it and fueling it and fueling it. And the true source of all anxiety, everyday ordinary anxiety and depression, is this obsessive compulsive focus on the problems that we experience. And meanwhile, the solutions are all around us and we can't see it. You could suggest that it is inattentional blindness in a phenomenon in psychology where we only see what we're looking for. And so if all we're doing is looking at the problem and focused on the problem and banging the drum of the problem, we fail to see the solutions that are everywhere all around us. So if you're faced with a problem, a relationship problem in work, or maybe it's not in work, maybe it's in your private life, stop banging the drum of it. Look for a solution. Look for people who will support you in trying to find that solution. If the house is on fire, stop throwing fuel on the fire. Sometimes you got to leave. Personal relationship, sometimes you got to relieve that relationship. If it's a workplace situation, sometimes you got to leave that workplace and find a new job. But how you think about it, what you choose to focus on, the conversation that you have in your head about the situation matters. And so training ourselves to see solutions and talk to ourselves differently, to challenge the automatic negative thoughts that exist and seek out alternative, more helpful thoughts is often the answer. Now, I'm not suggesting that you deny the reality of the situation. I'm not suggesting that you bury your head in the sand and get on with it, because ultimately that's to your detriment. What I am asking you to do is to acknowledge that the situation is difficult and use words like yet and but and however to find yourself a little escape route from that box that you put yourself in. Put yourself in. To stop shoveling coal if you're on the front of that steam engine and just let the train slow down. Time away from work can help with that. And to seek out more positive alternatives. They're out there and you can find them. Fueling the fire of the problem by simply focusing on the problem doesn't help, won't help. And so perhaps that analogy can help you in finding the solution that you're after. Thanks for watching Q&A Friday this week. If you want to find the link to the article, in fact, I've got it here. Let me just show you before I go. Here it is on the Irish Examiner. Today it's by Sharon Ní Conacher from Dingle. Thanks, Sharon, for the invitation to contribute. And thanks for watching. Hope you found this helpful. Until next time, all the best.